Right, this is my Xray XB8 doing the battery tray video. As you may know, I've been running this car for a little while now with a different battery tray, this one, and it's a bit tatty now. I think I want to get something a bit nicer. So as you can see, I've got the motor mount installed, but nothing else. There's no servo tray, no battery tray, no ESC or anything in there. So this is a how to do the Xray XB8 conversion from the apart from the motor mount. And what I'm going to be using is these OFNA parts from the OFNA LX1e. Part number will go up on the screen now. So this includes a battery tray, but it also includes a servo mount and a receiver box, which will keep everything neat and tidy and make it look a lot nicer inside the car. There's quite a few other plastic bits. But yeah, so we're going to be testing this out. So let's cut it open. Okay, so there's the battery box. Snap that off. And it also includes a pad for the ESC. But there's some quite big blocks here which we may need to get rid of to make this as low as possible. But this is going to go around something like this. But yeah, we're going to be modifying it to make sure that that fits in. Let's take a look at the receiver box now and servo mount. Nice plastic. So there will be a few holes we're going to have to drill in the chassis to get all this to fit. But yeah, this is all of it. Here's the cover to that, and the other plastic bits which we probably won't be using. Okay, so the first thing we're going to be doing is getting rid of this bit of plastic here, because that hits the composite chassis brace here on this car. So you can use a Dremel, is what I'm going to be using. The cutting bit, you could use the Dremel with a sanding tool, you could use a hacksaw. There's lots of ways of getting this off. But yeah, basically we're just going to remove that bit of plastic. Never really see which bit we're removing. This tab here. There we go. And then you might want to sand it off, neaten that up a bit. But that's done. Okay, so now we've got that bit off. The next step is going to be dremeling some of this chassis side guard here, because this is going to mount in here, but this corner rubs up against this side guard. So what we're going to want to do is use a Dremel or any other sanding tool to sand back some of this side guard. I'm going to be using a Dremel. So as you can see there, I'm not sure if you can see that on camera. It's not the neatest job, but that's how far you need to go. That's just fine. So yeah. Oh yeah, and another thing to note, I've already Dremeled these bits off for lower clearance of the battery tray. Okay, so now we've got it to roughly fit inside the car. The next thing we're going to want to do is get your battery that you're going to be using, put it in the battery tray and see if that is going to fit under your body shell. I can already tell that that's not going to fit under my body shell. Just to test it out. No, not quite. It's close, but it doesn't fit. So here's a closer look at that. As you can see, the body shell does not clear the battery. So as I suspected, the lowest point here is where the battery is actually hitting against the body shell. So, if at this stage you find that your battery does fit under your body shell, then you're fine. You may need to ignore the next few steps. As you can see, I've got quite a tall battery there. So now what we're going to want to do is try and lower this down. So we're going to try and take off these extra bits of material. You can see there's quite big blocks at the bottom of this. We're going to be dremeling those so that we get a lot less of that and a lot lower clearance. Okay, so we also need to Dremel away a bit of the ESC tray here. Unless you want to mount it like this, where the batch tray is further this way, then it's fine because it can just hit against this. But if you want to have it closest to the middle, which is how I want to do it, then you're going to need to cut away some of this because it rubs up against the rear chassis brace. So, going to use the Dremel for this. Okay, so there's that done. As you can see, I've cut away a good section of that there. Let's mount it into the car now. So now you can see that the battery tray is a lot closer to the middle, to the centre diff. And it's no longer hitting against the rear brace. So far I've Dremeled this bit down a bit. Just to lower it down, and I've decided that, and I've Dremeled this bit to the side so that it fits under the side guard. So I've decided I'm going to be using this front bit and this back bit to hold it down. 2 screws, it seems to be very steady. There'll be more details in that in the future, but what I'm basically going to do now is Dremel all of these down a bit, maybe even completely remove these ones, and just to lower it down even more. If you've lowered it to the point where you think it's not going to get any lower than this, but the battery still doesn't fit under the body shell, what you can do is raise your front body post. So you take apart the upper plate, get the body post off, and now you just add little spacers like this in there to raise the height of it up a bit. Okay, so now we've raised the body mounts and we've cut down the battery tray things at the bottom. We're going to put the battery in again, and then the body shell should fit over the top. As you can see, the battery fits in there fine now. Body shell goes over the top, so that's how I want it. But if at this point it still didn't fit, you just either raise the body mounts even more, or you take more off the bottom of the battery tray. But that's me done for that part. So now what we're going to do is we're going to try and figure out how we're actually going to mount the battery tray securely to the car. So I've decided I'm going to be using this bit here, this small screw that my finger's pointing to now, and I'm going to be using this hole here, so you can see there it is on the other side, and I'll be using this thick screw here, and that lines up fine. The front I'm going to be mounting with this little tab here, although when I've got it screwed in at the back it doesn't line up to any hole in the front, so what I'm going to have to do is use a screwdriver or the Dremel with a screwdriver thing attached and make a hole there, and then I can thread it through properly with a screw. So there is the battery tray installed completely onto the car. As you can see, it's very solid, very firm. That is not going to come undone. It's only got 2 screws, but they're thick screws. Got the thick engine mount screw there, and then the other one right there, the front. But yeah, if you need to, then maybe you could drill holes in this chassis, but if you want more screws in it, but it doesn't seem to be necessary for this car, the way I've done it. So yeah. So as you can see, I've now got the battery straps installed. I just used this. I just made these using some double-sided Velcro like this, but if you buy normal battery straps, these will work just fine as well, and they'll probably end up looking better than these, but these work just fine, so decided to use that. So yeah, the next step is going to be the ESC, which is going to be a reasonably simple process. What we're going to do, get the ESC, decide which way it's going to go. So that looks like a good position. I think that's where I'm going to go for it. And then I'm going to use double-sided sticky tape and then a zip tie to hold it all in place. Okay, so now we have the ESC installed. So I used some double-sided sticky tape, just the normal kind of thing that you get with from most RC shops. And then I've got zip ties holding it on. I drilled a hole down in here for the zip tie to go through under the ESC plate. The ESC plate on this battery tray is really good. It really is a good place to have the ESC mounted. But yeah, that's basically it for that. And oh yeah, and I also threaded the the ESC wire underneath the battery tray and up here, so it's going to protect it, just keep it a bit neater as well. But yeah, so the next step is going to be to move on to the servo mount and the receiver box. So with the receiver box, I'm going to use the two holes at the bottom of this to line up to these two holes on the chassis. But what's blocking it at the moment is this nut right here that's holding the car on. So what I'm going to do is remove that and Dremel out the plastic bit, and that should be alright, because there's still the front one and the back one that are going to be holding it in place, so it should be strong enough. Also, this section here, this corner, this bit, the bottom of that rubs against the outdrive of the centre diff, so that's got to be dremeled down as well a bit. So I just decided to use these two screws in here, and they lined up fine, and that's pretty sturdy. Maybe I should drill another hole in the chassis and screw it up there, but I'm not going to. I'm going to take the risk of just the two screws here holding it all on. It feels quite sturdy, so I think I'm just going to go for this for now and see how I go. So yeah, that's that all mounted. That's the battery tray and the receiver box. You can see it makes the car look a lot tidier and it looks very nice. Obviously you then put your servo in there and your receiver in there. Then you snap down this part, and then this part also comes with the package, and that snaps into place with the lip underneath. Out there. Okay, so here's the servo installed. So what you can see here is I've used the normal servo horn that I used before with the laydown servo, and then I mounted this under here. There's a nut holding that bolt in, and then I've got the same servo arm that I used before, but what I've had to do here is use some spacers to just raise this up a bit. Now, one disadvantage of this is it puts a bit of flex in there, and I've tried to find ways of avoiding it, but I can't really do anything about it. So it's a bit flexible, but I've test driven the car and it seems fine. So yeah, that's that all installed. It looks pretty nice. Good solid connection there. And as you can see, finally I do have a good factory finish to my Xray. So I've got the battery tray, the receiver box, which is all in there solidly, the servo's in nice, the ESC's in very tightly, and this looks like it could be a ready built, a ready to run car now, instead of a conversion that looks a bit crappy and out of place. So thank you for watching this tutorial. I hope it was a help to you. So yeah, I would highly recommend using this, the LX1e parts for this car.